screen?
I can.
Oh, thank God. Okay, is it big enough for you to see it?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I can see everything clearly.
Okay. Okay, I did. So let's go ahead. Okay, so what we've done, Amy, we've got Margaret Hellworth, our Assistant Director, Scholar Side, Simona Queltz. Did I say that right? Kultz. Simona Kultz. Sorry, I know, I can't, I never knew how to say it right. Kultz. Okay, I can do it.
Not trying too hard.
Not trying too hard. I try really hard with umlauts. Amy, we're totally distracted, but Simona, J1 lead, J1 scholar lead, Angela Hamilton. I'm so nervous I can't even remember people's last names now. Angela Hamilton, and she's a J1 scholar assistant. Chris Porter and myself.
Right.
And we have got Hans Mueller up on the screen. Mueller. I'm butchering more German names. Mueller. And we created a J1 scholar record. Angela and Simona just sat together and created this.
Okay.
And they used a template.
First off, congratulations on creating a profile. That's exciting.
Yes, we need to celebrate little victories.
Yes.
Now, Chris is going to have to help me here because they applied a template, and I don't want to apply it again. I want to go to see it.
You can so go to record management.
Okay, so I'm going to go to record management. And we were showing Angela how she could use a template rather than going to each window. She could just pull up the template and enter her information.
Click on the first 4 windows there under biographical information.
Okay, so I can't just see it, the whole request. Okay, I'm just checking. Core biographical. So here's what we've got under core biographical.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got extended biographical. And again, she filled this all in by using a template. She got this populated. Immigration status history, no. Communication. Okay, all we have is an email address. Dependents, we've got. Okay.
Go down to ds2019 detail information.
I'm trying. ds2019 detail.
Click on the first 2 and then kind of activity.
Okay, we've got the program information. And we've got financial information. And what else have we got here? I want to try to make this bigger. It doesn't work that way in Chrome. I don't know how to make it happen in Chrome. Okay, ds2019 site of activity information. Okay, that's it, right? So we've got all of those windows populated. And Amy, how can we look at this in one screen rather than me having to pull up all of those things? So we applied a template and got this information. Is the only way to do it just to go look at the template?
No, you can go to the create a CVIS batch thing.
Yeah, I mean, if this is for purposes of creating a CVIS batch, you could go to the Create CVIS Batch window and open the Create DS2019 window, and not all of that information will be there for you, but a lot. Everything that's required for the DS2019 will be there for you.
Okay, so we're going to jump down to Create a CVIS Batch, and as you showed us the other day, we can look in here, even though we're not going to save it as a batch event. We can click on this Create New DS2019. And we can pull in Renate Mueller.
You know how to do that? To add the dependent? Okay.
Yeah, and the window's coming up, but you can't see it. So this window.
Got it.
And I say, okay. Okay, so now we can see the Create New DS2019.
Sorry, what tab is that?
I'm sorry, Margaret, you were asking what tab is what under?
Okay, so under create CBIS batch, is that what it's under?
Uh-huh.
J1 exchange visitor, and then create a new document.
So if you go down to CBIS batch, J1 exchange visitor, create a new document, click on create new DS 2019.
Would it make a difference?
Oh, here it is, sorry.
And this looks a lot like what Angela was seeing with the template. Angela, did you have anything besides bio, program, financial, independent? Did we put site of activity on there? Or we didn't?
That plugs in from this under program, I think.
Okay,
Doesn't it?
let me look.
You ended sentiment to me, right? Yeah.
So
Yeah.
program, so here it is. Site of activities down under program.
I
Okay,
don't know why you entered that information. We'll talk about this.
I actually
Jody
did
did
it.
that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I pulled up the site, but we'll talk.
I'm happy to be. I don't have to talk to anyone about this.
Like, what?
Chris had me do it.
Okay, then that explains it. Thank you.
Okay, so Margaret, are you in the same place we are?
Yeah, except on mine, it's biographical, program, financial, but dependent is not a tab there.
Did you have a dependent for this individual?
I did, but I guess it didn't get exported or whatever.
Now, you can also manually add a dependent by clicking the icon at the top with the two rings together with the green circle and the cross in it.
Okay,
Oh, that's what that is.
so if we click on dependent tab, we can add a dependent with that plus button.
Exactly. Well, you don't even need to click. Yeah, just click on that button is all. Yeah.
Oh.
But the way we did it is our template created the dependent,
Right, our template, we used a template to create it.
and then we hit the checkbox,
Oh,
clicked on the batch. And then
well, it should have come up as an option for you then, if that's what you did.
and it did.
And it did.
Add it. Okay.
Oh. So Margaret, for your person, can you get the dependent to come up? And then Amy, this is a little discombobulated because we just this morning worked right up to the time of the meeting and got the J1.
Fine. No, I mean, practice is, this is how this stuff is going to get integrated for you. So it's totally fine.
So, we're just trying to get, okay, we're just getting Margaret, Chris is taking a look at an issue Margaret's having. She filled out a dependent, but when she went to go create new DS 2019 under create a CVIS batch, the dependent information is not populating in that create new DS 2019 window.
And did she get the pop-up window asking her if she wanted to first? No.
Let me see. Let me just check real quick. Amy. You have to put a J, I mean, that's an H4, you have to put a J2 dependent record in, not an H4 one.
So you couldn't populate within the system of an existing dependent record. You couldn't populate a new dependent.
Okay, so Amy, the question, yeah, Margaret's got an H4 dependent record, and she was expecting that to show up on the Create New DS 2019 dependent tab. And what we're sitting here discussing is, my understanding is she'd have to have a dependent line that was a J2 dependent line.
Exactly. Yeah.
She's got them previously in H4 status on the dependent tab. She's going to need to create a new record for a J2 dependent with that information. Is that right?
Or change their visa classification. Yeah, on the dependent window.
If she changes that visa classification on the dependent window, it's going to lose our history that that person was in H4 though, right?
No, because the dependent window, all it does is store the biographical information about the dependent. It doesn't really store anything else. I mean, for the purposes of creating the DS 2019.
So where would we then go back and see that that dependent was in H4 status previously?
So you're saying that you would have an H4 that would go to a J1, and you want to see that they would have been an H4.
We want
Well,
an H4 that would go to a J2 is what I believe is happening here.
J2. Well, in that case, I mean, I think the only thing you can do is to create a new row. it may, you'll have to see, you would probably have to create a new row with the dependent information for the J2 record. And I'm assuming that it's not going to, open up a window with asking you which record to apply. It should only ask you for the J2, but I've sometimes seen it do multiple. So,
Okay.
So it's important for you to retain that status. And
so what we're going to do right now is we're not going to do a change of status situation. We're going to revisit that issue later. So Margaret, if you can follow along with the Hans Mueller example.
I can't because it's not showing.
But if you can follow along up there on the main screen, or come sit next to me if you want, because I think that's pretty big up there. And I'm sorry that you can't get to that record. We're having trouble with Margaret being able to pull up the Hans Mueller record.
Oh, really? Is it just freezing or?
Well, so I've got Hans Mueller's record up. We created it just, in the last hour. And for some reason, Margaret can't navigate, do search profile. She can't find the Hans Mueller record. Is there anything?
Error message or something? That's unusual.
Okay, I think what the problem is, and Margaret can confirm, when she goes to search for profile, search for a person, it just doesn't come up as a person. So if
okay, she's searching for his entire name or part of the name?
Are you searching the entire last name or the entire name?
Yeah, just do one name or the other. Sometimes if you try to search by the entire name, it'll be like not found. I don't know why they've done it that way, but
ELLER, Margaret?
So I think, Amy, what seems to be happening is that I'm only able to access the one I've entered. I can't, because when I try to search for something, it's grayed out.
Okay, I'm going to.
Oh, that's because the entire search window is grayed out for you.
Okay, so Amy, what we're going to do right now, I'm just going to show. I'm going to close John Steve Smith's big window here, and then we're back to the search window, and we're just going to put Mueller in and see what happens.
Well, and it sounds like, if I'm understanding right, Margaret isn't able to do any searches at all. Is that
No,
right?
she can. She just, yeah. So Amy, what happened is she had the search window open already in the background behind John Smith or Steve, whoever.
Okay.
Or
Okay, now I get that. I didn't get that before.
yeah, we didn't get it. That, and it happened to me before too. What happened to Margaret? We're not used to having windows buried behind other windows,
Right.
than it being grayed out. So
Well, the lovely thing is when you get the next two patches applied, you will actually have at the top, on your top toolbar,
yeah.
you'll have one of your columns will be called Windows, and all of your open windows will display there, so you can easily just click on it and that window will appear for you. So that's coming. That will be easier.
Boom. Okay. So guys, can we,
Okay,
at this
we're good.
point,
Good. Keep going.
okay. So let's step back for a moment. And Amy, what we want to do is we kind of told you what we just did. So just to recap, Angela and Simona took a paper form and we entered in using a template so that she didn't have to go to each of the little windows and navigate.
Yeah, how did you do that using a template? That's the part where I kind of got lost.
Okay, let's go ahead and get back.
Doing a template for each person?
No, I'll show you what we did. Because I
Great.
know it's a little weird, but okay, so what I want to do, Chris, is I want to delete, we applied it. I want to delete the stuff that we applied.
Actually, it'd be easier to apply another row and then just go back and delete the rows.
Okay.
So let's do the initial scholar intake, which is that third one.
Initial scholar intake, there we go. Okay, so Amy, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and apply this template again to Hans Mueller.
Okay.
And we're gonna have more than one row now for him because we already applied it,
That's fine.
but we're gonna show you what we did.
Okay.
Okay, so We
Well,
click,
actually, can you on that template, can you hit the little magnifying glass for me so I can see what the template looks like first before you apply it?
I sure can. Let me just
That's the part I'm not understanding how you're doing it. So
sure. Let me just hit no as soon as I can get my cursor.
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. No, I don't want to apply it. Okay, now I'm going back over here and the magnifying glass. So let's all look at this template that we were applying.
Right.
So we got the address one.
Mhm.
Do you want me to move on through the tabs?
Yeah. So how are how are you applying data? You're applying the individual scholar data in that template some way?
That's a good question. That's what I mean about it's a little weird.
So
Yeah.
are not used to having to click on all the windows and open up windows with drop downs and all that. So what I tried to do, because I know that we aren't using an e-form yet, is just pull up like the windows for them using the templates instead of having to go through and click on the windows you want.
Mm-hmm.
This is the creative use of a template.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like a not really using a template.
It's more a window
It's-
order instead of kind of.
Well, you know, one thing you guys could consider doing, and I'm still not clear, like how you must be opening a template and then putting someone's data.
Yes.
Yes, we're using it as a window to show everything that we want in one place rather than navigating through that thing over there on the left, those
Mhm.
tabs, and entering information in. And that makes it easier because then you're going through and you've only got to save one time. We realize that we're dinosaurs, but this is our.
No, I see where you're headed. I mean, I would almost say, you know, maybe the easier way to do it would be to just build a stinking e-form and put everything on just that only you use, you know, and then because otherwise you're going to have to manually populate each of these templates. And, you know, I mean,
Yeah, we know.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of, then you could have one e-form that every advisor uses and only one template, you know, that does everything. Anyway, it's just an idea with whatever, you know, you feel like, if you feel like this works for you without making you crazy, then that's totally fine, you know.
Okay, so yes, what you said is what we want. And Simona was asking a question earlier, you know, how can we just get you see how it's foreign outside USA type for the address has a star next to it? That was
Right.
Simona's earlier question is how do we get a form, you know, to fill out in here that just has the things that we want, you know, that Angela needs to fill in and that the advisors, you know, agree needs to be filled in. And what you're saying is we could just use an e-form, even though we're not giving it to the department or the scholar, we could just fill in the e-form ourselves.
Yeah.
That's
build a form. Yeah, I mean, if you've got, I think you have, you know, people on staff who might be interested in, and this would be a very simple e-form. You're not like doing any second approvers or whatever, but basically you could build a single e-form that mirrors exactly what your paper form looks like. And you could just enter the data that way. And then, you know, 4 or 5 advisors can use the same form, right? And then you only have to have one template, and the template can just be applied either automatically or manually after you submit it. So yeah, but it's up to you. I mean, I haven't ever personally tried to do this way with a template, the way that you've built it. So maybe it works fine for you.
Well, we don't really know what works fine or doesn't work fine. We're just trying to get there. But yeah, what we want, the way we want it to work is what you suggested with the e-form. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that would be very simple to build, you know. I mean, either I could probably build it, you know, in a few hours, something very simple for you, or, you know, I could, if somebody already knows how to build the e-forms or they want to sit down with me for an hour or two and learn how to build a simple
We will
e-form.
sit down with you Chris and I will sit down with you for an hour, and can we videotape that in case somebody else needs to see it?
Sure. And we can do a very basic, because you're only going to need a very simple form for this purpose.
Okay.
Of the way that you're using it. So
Right, no data fee, yeah. So, okay, great. That's going to be our follow-up meeting that we will want to do this Thursday. You and I, when we have that hour time scheduled.
Oh, okay. I actually may need to talk with you because I think I'm going to need to reschedule that.
That's no problem.
Maybe we can do it next week, or we can schedule. Yeah, I think it's going to have to be next week if that's all right.
It's fine. It's fine with me because I'm so overwhelmed right now. I'm about to just kind of, I don't know what. But anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I drink a glass of wine each night.
Yeah.
No, I tried drinking a glass of wine each night, and that turned into 2. And now
Synapsis has done that to almost every school that I've worked with. So, you know, they should take out shares in wine companies, in wineries, I think.
Yes. Okay. So, Amy, what we want to do now is we don't have that e-form. What we have is our template. So what we want to do is go ahead and have you start from the point where we had applied this template. And now Angela needs to know she's filled in everything from the template is what we've basically done. So we have a complete request, and we want to know now, how does she assign that over to Simona? And we want to do it, we want Simona to be able to do this with a CBIS batch event.
Okay. So we're saying intake person has done the setup essentially. And your intake person does have CBIS credentials or does not?
Angela does not. She does not.
So you could do it in one of 2 ways. Your intake person could actually go into the CBIS batch and create it, right?
Okay. So if we create CBIS batch.
Go to the create new DS 2019, review all the information that's there, make sure that it's fine.
Okay, give me just 1 minute. Now, when I hit create DS 2019, now I've got 3 rows of select DS 2019 program information. So I might, let me just show you so everybody can see.
The top one is, well, in your case, use probably the same data in each row. But that's the most recent information that you've applied is on the top one. Yeah.
Okay. Usually we should only have one up there. So should I be going back in to get rid of those other rows that I don't really want?
In the early stages, yes. That's try to keep it clean just so you don't confuse yourself, especially if you're changing data in each of those rows. That's the best way.
Okay, so let's go back to the, hold on. Let's go back to the DS 2019 and let's clean that up real quick. If I can just get my mouse over here. So let's go back into record management. America. I'm sorry. Cancel.
Click exit.
My mouse is like all over. I have to go over there. Okay, here we go. Exit. Okay, now, so I should go to record management and go to this DS 2019?
Yeah.
I don't know how that got entered in 3 times.
Because we kept going down to apply the template. So the bottom row there is the...
That's what you want to keep, it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah, so every time we were going and I was doing...
But I didn't think you would enter it.
I didn't think so either. And that was that's why I was trying to make a point here that if you see 3 rows, you might want to go back and check what's going on with those rows. And Margaret, see, I've got that little guy, he's over there and I want to grab him. Come here. Come here. Okay.
Like, are you sure you want to do this?
If you're sure you want to delete that. And you can see there's no information on the screen in that, and there's no information on this one. So I'm deleting those 2.
Now, Amy, this brings up an interesting question because Jody and I both have the same record open at the same time. And it looks to me like she's doing stuff to the record that I'm not seeing.
You've got to refresh. So you're going to have to wait till I save, and then you're going to need to refresh. So refresh your record management area, the green button.
No, but she was asking.
No, but I don't know that you're working on it. So I'm in my office working on it. I don't know what you're
Whoever
doing.
saves first is going to win.
Okay.
just like they do now. Whoever saves first is going to win. And you got to refresh. I mean, and so my point would be there should never be two of the same people working on, she's got the folder, she's not going to sign it. I mean, if you're in there and want to do double work and
what can happen is like she's maybe entering a record and I'm maybe simultaneously just talk to the department putting notes in the notes.
so you're okay on that.
So it's only if it's the exact same screen.
Right.
Okay.
Right. But again, the refresh is where you would want to refresh
Well,
if you.
refreshing and it's not happening.
Okay, so show me your screen, Margaret, because you've got to sometimes get back.
You have
Okay,
to close the
you've got to
window
close that window
and then refresh.
and refresh your record management area on the far left. Refresh over there and then pull up that window again.
The rows for all three.
So we should ds2019 program information. You should only see one row now that is actually has stuff in it.
Yeah. Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is an important lesson, I think, for all of us. There are going to be, there are going to be multiple opportunities where you're going to need to refresh to see what's going on, close out of something, get back in it. And as always, if your system just is not seeing, you're not seeing what you think you should, close all the way out of synapsis and get back in and start fresh. That's the first thing to try. Okay, so where were we? We were trying to do a CVIS batch event, right, Amy?
Uh-huh. And we're at the point that the person who has done the intake has gone to the CVIS create batch window, create new ds2019.
Okay.
They would have done a review at this point.
And now here's what we have. So we've got multiple lines on the local address window.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, I can't tell what they are.
Right. So I would just choose the top one. Well, I guess it's hard to know.
We're going to find out when we get in here.
Yeah, I mean, either way, when the window opens, that's typically blank anyway for a ds2019, isn't it? So curious. Anyway,
But
so you
somehow,
click.
just like we had 3 initial rows, somehow we got 2 local address, rows.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm on the select ds2019 information. I think before I do this, Amy, I'm going to have to clean up this record because now I've got other information. We've got 3 records for.
Well, you know what you can do? If you open the Create New ds2019 window and that's fully populated with data, I think you can just go ahead and use that as an example and do cleanup afterward, because that's really all you care about for the demo purposes at this point. But just know that as you begin to sort of fiddle around and play around in records, you probably will want to do this cleanup as you go along if you're, playing with templates and just to keep it from being confusing for yourselves. But I think, if you don't have to necessarily to do that, to go through everything. So did you click the Create New ds2019 window again?
I did, and I've got to select ds2019 other information. I'm going to pick the bottom one because we've determined that the earliest one that we've created is on the bottom, and then it's second.
The one with the data. Yeah. Okay.
It seems like that's the case. So now we've got another window coming up, select ds2019 financial. And again, we've got 3 rows there because we've been messing around. So now, can you see the create new ds2019? Oh, hold on.
Yeah, see, we lost data. So
Well, it's important. Right now, it's asking me to import the existing dependents.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going Renate. Okay. Okay. Now, what are we missing here?
Yeah, you missed all of the extended bio information.
So I didn't pick the right rows. And so I think I need to go back.
Yeah, or you could just manually enter at this point too. I mean, I think that would be fine.
Do you want me to manually enter?
Yeah.
Okay. So read to me gender.
Male.
Gender, male. Okay. Date of birth.
6/12/1992.
1992. City of birth.
Regensburg.
Ronald Reagan.
No.
Bird. Germany.
Okay.
How do you say it?
Birth country reason, no. Country of permanent residence.
Germany.
Okay. Okay. Email.
Where is that?
Is there-
You really can just put anything in there, we're not using
.de. Sorry, .de.
this. This is bad.
Denmark. Okay.
No, that's Deutschland.
Deutschland. I don't know why I said Denmark.
So can I just, why didn't it populate these fields?
Okay, can we see, Amy, this is why I want to go back right now, because I think we're not all understanding exactly what happened here, and I want to go back and I want to fix it so that it can work the way it's supposed to work.
Okay.
Because I don't think that, otherwise I don't think when people get stuck like this, I don't think they're going to get it. Okay, so let's go back up here to our
Management.
record management, and let's look at each of our each of our things. We've got core biographical. We have one record. Great, that's what we were hoping for. We've got extended biographical. And how did we lose our extended biographical?
Yeah, so when you applied the template, if there was not data in the template, it wiped it out.
Oh, because we applied, because we're doing this funky thing by using templates and entering.
It's kind of too dangerous.
No, it worked. It just you used it again.
I know.
and
You're
you
only.
hit yes.
I know.
It's
Well, I
okay.
mean, at least we have an
Yeah.
explanation. That's
At least
what
we
I was wondering
understand.
about. We understand what happened, so we can avoid it.
Exactly.
It's messing with us.
Okay. So, and that's, and I'm glad we're doing this and going back, because all of this is still just kind of new to everyone. And I'm going to get my little window. So we're going to go ahead and put it back in here since we wiped it out. Or Amy, am I even going to be able to apply this template again, or should I just go back in now that we understand?
I personally would just dispense with the template. I mean, I think you can come back and do it. I would just manually populate it. Now, did everybody see? Yeah, because I'm not even 100% clear how you're populating the template, that whole process yet. So I would just populate this extended biographical window so we could do the process of creating the ds2019 batch and then referring it to an advisor for sending to CVIS. Does that sound okay? Or is everybody burning to see how this template thing works?
Or in our case, a discombobulated way to use the template works. So let's not, we've agreed we want to do the e-form. So let's just get this to the point where we can assign it to the advisor. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in this information right here. Dickens birth, country of birth. Germany.
You're a non-immigrant.
You guys use marital status?
Yeah.
No.
No?
Not for Jay.
No, it's Jay's?
I think we should, because when we do reports, it'd be a lot easier if we just.
Well, I just
Yeah,
report, in Open Doors, I always have to report for all the students I don't know. And
Yeah, but I'm just saying right now.
We don't. Okay. Got it. So I've got the extended biographical. What else got wiped out here?
I think that was it,
I thought I saved.
at least for the purposes of the ds2019.
Yeah, I saved. Okay, so that was all that we had lost.
And
So
just to clarify, you do have to click on that save button every time.
yes, if you make an update to this,
Uh-huh.
then you have to hit save.
But
If
even
you're
the
just
first
going to
time you
look
enter it,
at it, if you're just going to look, anytime you
Yeah.
do something and you
Yeah.
make a change, you have to save.
So you have to keep clicking that save.
And that's why we want to do an e-form, Margaret, too. You know what I mean? We want one screen and one save rather than opening all these
But
up.
you know, even with FSA, we have different tabs, so we also have to save individually.
This is true.
It just looks different.
It just-
feels different. You just
Yeah.
have to remember, okay, up there's nothing, no button that says save, like an FSA.
Yes.
You just have to remember.
Right.
You have to remember.
This
Okay.
icon here.
Right, I mean, it is exactly, it's the
Yeah.
same concept, you're
Yeah.
always saving and it saves as well.
Yeah.
I think what happens with this, which is a lot more difficult, is that boxes quickly cover other boxes, and so if you didn't save and you open something else, then you can start to forget whether you saved or not, and there's nothing in there that indicates whether you have saved it or not, right?
At the very bottom, it'll tell you the time, last updated. If you look in the record right there,
Okay,
it'll tell you last updated.
okay, and
But
that
that's
means
not
last saved?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
This two-screen thing, it's not the business.
No, this is what's really hard is, Amy, we've got our pop-up boxes are going onto another screen and on our laptop. And anyways, we're all
Okay, now this
Yeah.
should work.
create new ds2019. Click-
I'll
Click
just.
OK.
I'll-
Okay, so what came up was United States local, you guys, and now we've got all of our things that standard come up. So Chris clicked the United States local and chose it. We're going to choose to import the existing dependent. That pops the dependent tab on there. And now, Amy, lead us the way. Lead us home.
So at this point, if you've reviewed all the data on the tabs, everything looks good. The intake person, you'll see the little icon with the earth with the little green checkbox. That should say create pending batch. That's what that says when that comes up. So what that means is they basically are creating a batch, but it hasn't been approved to send to CVIS. So that would be the first step.
Okay, now, can I step back 1 minute? Angela, I'm logged in here and I have CVIS batch. So I'm wondering if we could, I
You're
know
not
this
logged
is,
in there. That's Angela's.
Angela, are you logged? Oh, great. I forgot which computer I was on. Okay, so Angela is logged in here. So you're saying that when someone is doesn't have CVIS credentials, when we click on this, create a pending CVIS batch, and I can see if you guys, what you would be seeing is create a pending CVIS batch. It's showing up on a screen you can't see right now, but those words would come up there. If create a CVIS pending batch. So when she clicks this, now what's happening?
So at that point, if you clicked it, it should have created a pending CVIS batch in that client's record, as well as under CVIS management.
And here's the message we got. Record has been saved and added to the queue for review and or upload to CVIS.
Right. So just so you know, you could go, I'm not sure if it'll show under CVIS management. Jody, you may be the only person that would see that, but you can see. If you go to CVIS management at the top.
Okay. CVIS management along the top.
Yeah, just try to load batch management, and it may not load because
So
we'll just, because there technically would be two places where you would see this batch go at that point.
okay. So I just need to show everyone else the screen because the pop-up window that comes when you say CVIS management is on my laptop screen. What we're seeing is launch the RTI embedded browser, CVIS batch management, which is what Amy wants us to click on to go see out here. So Angela can't see any CVIS.
She does not have access to that. But Jody, this is where, just so you know, you can approve a batch from CVIS batch management, which means all of the pending CVIS batches appear together. Or in the scenario where you have an intake person who is creating the batch, if you go back to the client record.
Sign it.
Let me close that. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the client record.
Just close it with the X.
I'm going to close the X over here. And we're back to Hans Mueller.
Yeah. So if you go down to CVIS transactions and do the refresh, there you go. So there you see that the batch has been created. You can actually double click on that batch and the details will open. Okay.
So just to step back a minute, Angela will not be able to see this if she goes up to CVIS management and looks in the CVIS batch area because she does not have the ARO. But Angela, where you will see this event that you created for Simona to review is under the CVIS transactions. When you refresh, you can double click on it and see that here's what you're handing off to Simona.
Exactly.
I know this is going to take a while. We're going to see this many times.
You'll pick it up quickly though. So you create the pending batch. I mean, you don't even necessarily need to look in CVIS transactions. If you get that window that says your pending CVIS batch has been created, blah, blah, for review, that tells you it's been done. I just wanted to show you that within the record, there is also the location where you can review it, and where Simona, actually when Simona logs in, she would then have the option, the little icon that's grayed out for Angela would actually be live, and that is where she could approve that batch after reviewing it. Okay. So let's just X out of the CVIS transaction, and let's pretend.
Margaret's got a question. Sorry.
Okay.
Why is it not possible to open the review change tab?
The review change tab on this. Okay, so if we open this.
Because you're not changing anything, you're creating only. If it was a change, for example, an address change, a change of major or something like that, where you were actually changing data in CVIS, then you would have the option to review that change. What you will simply see is here is the data that has been set up in the CVIS schema to be sent to CVIS. Okay, so it's not necessarily laid out, you know, in maybe your preferred way, but all of the data that's going to get sent to CVIS to create that ds2019 appears there under transaction details. If you wanted to actually, you know, look at it in the format that like Angela had, you know, with each of the tabs, you can just simply go to the Create a CVIS Batch, open that Create CVIS ds2019, and you should be able to see it there as well.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Amy. Just to be clear, so this is not the place after the advisor reviews it and finds something needs to be changed. This is not the place to make that change. You have to go back into record management to make that change. To correct.
You would have to go back into
the create.
Well, you could delete the CVIS transaction and then.
Yeah, you would probably exactly. You would probably just delete it, go back into the Create a CVIS ds2019 and update it.
But,
so, I mean, if that's something you feel like you have to do a lot, then I would not have that intake person create the ds2019 because it's going to be extra work for you.
And Amy, if when we're doing this the way we would like to do it with the e-form, will Simona be able to, on the e-form, make changes right there in the e-form to what Angela's done before she creates the batch event?
Yeah. Exactly. So Simona would perhaps be reviewing the data that's come in through the e-form when it's approved. We then have the template automatically set that information to the record, and we have it set up so that the batch, when it's creating a CVIS batch for you, that she can review and then approve.
Okay.
Not a little abstract at this point because we're not actually looking at an e-form, but if you at least want to go down the e-form route, and I mean that's something to really think about, you know, in terms of your timeline, what you're envisioning for when you want to go live with your departments using e-forms, you know, how much effort you actually want to put into building that e-form and getting used to that process before you then change it, you know, to have departments entering it. And I don't know where your heads are on that, but.
Our heads are about, we're going to be doing this from November until I would say at least 6 months to a year before we're going to be able to go live with our department's e-forms.
Okay.
Because of the training aspect of it, and because we know we don't want to go live in November with it, because we can't unroll this to our staff and do that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to be in a position of needing to create ds2019s using some method for at least, I would think, 6 months to a year. I don't know how, you know, everybody else is feeling about it.
Yeah,
but it's just a major change to get us to the point where.
But maybe we can kind of stack the type of e-forms that we need versus those who can wait. It's still a
Right.
training issue with departments, but we'll have to look at
Okay.
that.
Yeah, so it
But
sounds like we need to,
have-
the scholar team's gonna need to have some conversations, but Amy, just so they know the information they need to have that conversation, can you clarify the e-form that we would use internally for Simona and Angela to be able to do this process? You said that would take a couple hours. It's pretty simple, straightforward, take a couple hours to set that up, versus the e-form that would have possibly first, second approvers that would go out to the departments, and the scholar would enter something, the departments would enter something. What numbers of hours are we talking about to build those e-forms?
Well, it really depends on how complex your forms and your process are, to be frank. I've done very simple forms that, you know, can take anywhere from 5 to 10 hours to build and fully test. And to get, the thing about Synapsis is you have all of these options to, you know, add custom emails, to do all of these sort of customizations. So it really depends, you know, we'd want to look at your forms, see how complex they are, and, you know, see how many levels of, you know, sometimes they have to have multiple approvals, you know, department chairs and faculty supervisors and all this stuff. So it can vary. It can vary anywhere, you know, from a total of like a 10-hour project to get it where you really like it to, you know, double that, depending on how complex your request is.
We're in the okay, so
And
sounds.
that's with somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, if you're doing it brand new, expect that it's going to take you more time.
So what I'm hearing is 2 hours to get us an internal e-form that we can just use in-house versus 5 to 10.
Just simply transfer data. Yeah, I don't think it would take much more than that.
Okay.
If your form is simple, you know, if it's just address, biographical data, basic ds2019 data, that wouldn't take terribly long to build.
Okay. Great. Now, before, I think we didn't quite, I know we've jumped around a lot, and I'm sorry about that. That's because Amy and I prepared ahead for the Create I-20, but there was no meeting in between for me to get to the point where I could coordinate this in a better way. So I do take responsibility for all the jumping around, but I think in it, we have come to terms with some other things and to know how to move forward better. And we wouldn't have known if we didn't have these questions and go through this. Right now at this point though, should we finish off this process by having Simona log in and do the actual, she has DSO access and we've got our CVIS test environment set up.
Sure, yeah, we can do that. And just to clarify, because I think we were headed down a different direction. Well, we covered both options with the students, but on your scholar side, are you expecting that you want to do your Create ds2019s primarily via batch, or you want to explore doing them via the RTI Populate Fields button?
Well, we haven't really discussed this as a team yet, and there are several people involved in the process, so we will do so. But from your previous explanations, it sounds like there's really, unless you have some mass events that you have to submit to CVIS, it sounded like, and you mentioned it yourself, you didn't use batch because of the embedded browser and the opportunity of fields populated in RTI from Synapsis.
Exactly. So I you know, Jody, I think we could, you know, if Simona has those credentials set up in your test environment, we could just do the example of the Populate Fields, show them how to create that ds2019, to show them how easy that is. Do you think that would be an option?
Well, I have done this already. I think for me now, you know, with e-forms, I would be kind of curious about that step and how we could use an internal e-form to streamline the process, to make it a little bit user-friendly. And I can continue working with the embedded browser to see if I find anything that doesn't work for me or things I don't understand, and then
Okay.
I'll provide feedback. But I have I have done the embedded browser, the data transfer from Synapsis to RTI, and then from CVS RTI back into Synapsis. It took me a little bit.
Yeah, we did get that worked out. And last time I talked to you, we hadn't. I think though, because we've got Margaret Hellworth in the room, and I don't think she's seen that yet. Why don't we? And I want to just stop real quick and say what we're talking about here is whether two options at this point. Do we want to go directly into RTI and create the CVS record that way and get the document out directly in RTI, or do we want to send a batch? Right now, which way are we going? And in order maybe to know which way you want to go for certain types of events, you want to see how it looks and what it would take to do that. So Margaret, do you want to see the RTI embedded browser?
Sure.
Okay. Do you want to log in with your CVS credentials, or Simona?
I'm logged in.
Oh, okay. Okay, but we need you over here though,
Can we
we can share the screen.
Can we just finish up the process where the assistant goes into the system and
Sure.
shares the ds2019 information for the advisor to be, for the event to be approved? I remember that you said that to notify the advisor, you would use the tracking case file. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the last step of the assistant to use the tracking case file to forward that information to the advisor.
Exactly.
So let's do that electronic process where we hand off.
It might be helpful.
Right. Let me just say this is generally how it works. If and when you guys move to the e-form process, it will be a bit similar, except that there will be a pre-existing case, because when the e-form comes in, it has an alert, and that automatically can create a case if you assign it to someone. So it will look a little bit different, but in the meantime, the process is essentially the same. So your intake person has reviewed and created the CVS batch. Now they want to send it on, let's say, to Simona, and to let her know, hey, this person is ready for review. So Jody's on the right tab. You click the little file folder icon
With the man on it.
Yes.
And it'll say next to it, you guys assign new case file, but that's coming up on the other screen here. So here we
You can
go.
let the synapsis people know that 85% of the people who work in this field are female, and there should be
Right. I know. I think we should lodge a protest.
Yes.
I commented to them already on some of my demos that I've been on with them. Like, you guys know, hardly anybody who uses this is male, right?
I know in this field wear suits.
Except for Wes.
Except for Wes.
Yeah.
Don't do this, but anyway.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this whole subject of new case file is really bizarre to us, and we're just like totally at a loss. Is this like a drop? I mean, you know what I mean? Can you make a drop down?
Drop down, it's something that, I mean, certainly you could standardize. You could simply say, approve for CVS batch or something, create, whatever. What's going to appear on that advisor's case tracker will be the client's name, obviously, so they'll know. And then just the subject, it's basically just a small note telling them what it's about.
Okay, but you're saying we can make a drop down of this field, or
Cannot.
cannot?
Not
So
at
we
this
have to just agree on what we're typing.
Yeah, I mean, some offices which are really huge, they get very granular and standardized. And there can be benefit to that if you have a large caseload. And for example, you get 15 approved ds2019s in there, and you want to be able to sort on your case tracker so that you get all of those lumped together. So sometimes it can be worth thinking about what your standard nomenclature would be for that purpose, for purposes of filtering on your case tracker, if you are going to have a lot of open things.
Will all the J1, create DS2019 events, will all of those show up in the same place in the case tracker under J? In other words, are there folders there in the case tracker without this subject of new case file being assigned? So this is our only shot.
Right, exactly.
So this is big. I mean, we're going to want to stand.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, again, scholar side, typically, you have a smaller caseload than the students might But if you are, if you envision you're going to have like 30 or 40 things on your case tracker at any given time, it's not a bad idea. Keep it simple, keep it, clear, so that if you have 30 things on your case tracker, you could say filter by, the title of the case file, and then all of your approved DS2019s will appear together. So then you could work on them in little clumps. So it's really up to you. It was not a big factor for me because I did not have a big caseload. So.
Got it. Yeah, we're going to have to standardize that. I can see that right now.
And it doesn't pre-fill, right? Because
It doesn't, no. But I think that would be another thing Jody could pass on as a feature request. A little more of those sort of standardization options. The case tracking is actually a fairly new feature. And as I will probably say many times more, it's a good start, but it definitely needs refinement. So as you're working with it, please let Jody know so she can forward feature requests on to IU so they can get some of these changes implemented.
And Amy, just to be clear, this is just assigning the new case file. So if the advisor is working on events themselves, they're going to be able to see in CVS management all the different types of events, but they won't be sorted by the advisor's names. They're just going to be out there in the CVS batch once they've approved them, right? We won't be able to sort. We can see all the F1 registration events, for example, but it's not going to be based on which advisors approved those.
Right, in CVS batch management, you're saying?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
My last name in the management?
No, there's no CVS batch management. Once you approved it, it went out there. It's out there and it's ready.
Well,
it's going to CVS.
How are they going to?
They're going to find them in that's getting back to this. They're going to find it under their case tracker. So Amy, let's go ahead and do this. Let's assign Angela, assign this, and then I want Simona to come in and log in so we can see what it's going to look like.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I just can't.
Well, maybe Margaret can log in because she's already in there.
I need someone sitting here though so we can all see it. We can't. That was hooked to the projector. I know this is very, very good. So we're going to go Simona and assign new case file. So that's the last step Angela would do. And right now we still have paper files. So then the paper file and that button will be clicked. Paper file goes to Simona. So Simona, I'm going to log out now. Is there anything else you want Angela to see from her perspective?
You have some questions.
And so on Angela's case tracker, she doesn't have anything assigned to her right now. We're not at that point yet. Okay, so let's close out and I've got to close all the way out here and let Simona log in.
Do you want to keep this one or? Why don't you keep it if you want to go back to synapsis, you want to remember the name, because I have the name on my list. If you just want to look at how you entered the information, just review, I don't know, just keep it for now.
Okay, so now we can have Simona log in.
Okay. Wow, it's hard to control.
So click not for this side at the bottom.
Wow. I know, it's just hard to control this.
I know.
Because
Now
it's another display, and this
Yeah,
is
So I know, it takes me a second.
That's what I was trying to tell Chris, hold on.
It's like I have like lead fingers and just
Move it around.
move it
And
around.
what you can do is move your mouse. Watch your mouse up there on the screen, Simona. We're gonna have to move this over. So hold on. Let me move this over.
Do you want to
and then-
sit here because I'll just watch you because you just needed my information to be displayed,
I
right?
can
Why
sit.
don't you go ahead?
That's why this is so hard because we've got this whole multiple display thing going on. Okay, so we're gonna move this over Okay. Amy, can you see us now?
I can.
Okay. So we've got Hans Mueller on her case tracker. Our alerts are still being built there. So we should wait for those alerts to finish spinning.
No, that's fine. You
Okay.
can go ahead and open that record.
Good to know, because I didn't know that. So we're going to open this thing on the case tracker. Now, I just want to go back there real quick to the case tracker. Let's say she had a whole bunch of stuff out here. So you're saying we can sort by, is it going to sort first on the subject? Like if we've got a bunch of ready to review or approved ds2019?
By default, it sorts by date. Well, I'm sorry. It actually sorts by priority. So you see, even though this one, the Hans Mueller, is the most recent one, because the case above it with Vo has the priority cases will always appear at the top. Otherwise, the default is, last in is the first one that appears in the queue.
Can I make this high priority right now?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then if I do that, then I say refresh,
Mm-hmm.
and then I've got Hans Mueller on top.
Exactly.
Okay. And so the sorting functionality here, if I want to sort them by approved DS2019, how do I do that? Like say I've got 20 approved DS2019s and whatever else I've got.
I think you want, I can't remember if it's the filter or the sort. I think it's that one.
Okay, filter.
I think it was the third icon there with the little paper with the arrow down.
Yeah, sorry, it's come up with a window and I'm trying to get back over here. Okay, here we go. So,
okay, not it then. It's the funnel. Sorry.
That's the one I clicked.
Oh, that's the one you clicked, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the one I clicked on. Okay, so now I got to go back over here. Hold on. Where did my little mousey go? Come here, mouse.
Go left.
Go left. I always want to go right on that. I don't want to go left.
So is this the case though that Simona's the only one who would see it if it's assigned to her?
No, you can see other users' cases. Go to your other users' cases tab. You got a tab there, other user cases. Okay, so when we click on that down arrow, let me grab this and pull over. Sort case file list. So now we have choices.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to
Title.
sort by case title.
Right. You won't really see any sorting because you only have 2 cases and they each have a different case title. But in theory, if you had 5 approved DS2019, they would then all be at the top there.
Also, I could export my case file list to Excel, and then I could sort it out there.
Yeah, if you'd like.
What I would be doing. Okay, sorry. Now I'm going to click. I'm going to do what you told me to do and click on this. And I see this information over on the right. Now, where do I see Angela assigned it to me? Where do I see who assigned the thing to me? Or is that?
Well, you would see it in the record. I don't know if you'll see it. If you scroll to the bottom there, I don't know if it's actually assigned on this screen. But if you go into the record and you open the case file tracking, it should have the initials of the last person who took action on it.
Okay. Okay. I just want to.
DS2019 is probably only coming from one person anyway, right? But if you want,
Daniel, it could come from Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in other words, right now, what we know is we would go and look down here to see who assigned it.
What's rec number?
Yeah.
Rec number.
So then when we go down here, we'd have to click on this. And then when it comes up, we should see Angela.
Right. And I want to say it's with the caveat that when you go to an e-form, this will be different. Like the person who takes it in from an e-form would be able to put in internal office status. They could put in, I mean, not only would you have the last assigned by, but they would be able to put their initials in, completed by whatever, and that would appear on the case tracker. I don't want to get too far into that because that is going to change when you get to e-forms, but you would be able to see more on that case tracker. But in the case that we're working on here, you would have to come open the case file tracking if you wanted to see who was the person who had initiated it.
I still can't see Angela's name here, I guess, is my concern. I'm still not clear on how I find who assigned this case to me. Just a moment.
It's only showing assigned. I thought it showed the assigned by.
And maybe it's because we're in the old, this is a new feature and we're in an older version of Synapsis. So maybe if we upgrade, it will be there.
Well, I would not count on that. I may have just been misremembering because I thought that it was, you would see the person that had initiated it. When you get to the e-form process where you're creating your ds2019s, we can absolutely, in that internal office status, put the name of the person who initiated it. That's not a problem.
Okay. So now we're going to go into, we're going to do the embedded browser thing, right? And look at how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to launch the embedded browser. And I'm going to pull that page over.
Right now, this is also going to the site. Yeah.
This is going to get really confusing because I can't figure out how to get to that, the browser window.
Right. I set it up, but I just don't.
I couldn't find it. Okay, so you want me to log in? Okay, okay. So even though that's Simona's, can I log into my CVIS here?
Yeah, that should be fine. It'll just show the, when it's created, it'll show her name and then, but your credentials. So it should work fine,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
Time for username for her profile, for management profile.
Let's see what
We'll see.
happens. We're going to find out what happens when we do this thing, which we will never do again. Yeah, we don't know.
Go back to my desk.
Yeah, we don't. Simona's in our passwords. So we're just going to roll with this and see what happens.
Well, we forget.
Okay, so Amy, I did that thing that you said not to do. I didn't grab the scholars temperate their ID.
That's okay. Can you go back and do it now before you get into the create new screen?
Yes, yes, I'll go back and do it. I'll grab that.
Yeah, and this will have it. Yeah. And it's not, unfortunately, they haven't developed it into a very forgiving process. So
I lost my little window. I'm trying to find my CVIS window. There it is. Okay. And there it is. Now let me move it. Oh, it is on there. Okay. Let me go back over this way. There's my mouse. Okay, here we go. So now I grab that person's Dealy Pop and I'm going into listing of programs and walk me through here.
new Exchange visitor. And then a window is going to open asking for, and that's why it's important that you grab that ID number from the record. And this is how it's going to connect it, the CVIS record, to the record that you have in Synapsis. So that's why it's critical. So click OK.
Okay, so we're going to click OK. And Margaret, make sure you watch up at the screen because this is what you haven't seen before. And then you can practice it later. So I clicked OK, and note down at the bottom here, we see Hans Mueller. It connected. It knows that's the Synapsis record that we're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay, so what's my next step?
You can actually begin to use the Populate Fields button in the lower right-hand corner. So you can click that. And that should dump our information in for us if it's functioning properly.
Margaret, do you? I'm not pushing it yet. Do you see this one? No. So we're going to populate fields. You got to click on that, and it will put the information from Synapsis in there. And it says 37.5% RTI form populating. And hold on, I've got a window that popped up that is asking me which local, we have 2 blank local addresses. So I'm just going to say okay. And now I've got another window that popped up. And it's still,
You have to highlight one. There you go.
I have to highlight one, so I messed up. And now I've got another window that popped up for the mailing address. And I have to take that one and move it over here so you can see it. Highlight it, pick
The
OK.
thing that makes me nervous about that is that you've got several choices and you can't see what it is. So how do you know you're choosing the right one?
Right. And that's why you don't want to put in multiple rows when you're
That's why I
creating.
was gonna go clean it up. That's why, yeah, you can't do it. I mean, you
Yeah,
have to
this is
stop.
practice testing.
Yeah, you know you
Overwrite
can't.
the information.
Right. And that's why, remember, I was like, I want to go clean this up right now because I would never do this.
Right. You're not going to do it in practice, to be frank. But it's a good rule of thumb that the one on top is the one that's most recent. But in your case, because you applied templates that were empty, the one on top is the one with the empty row. So it should always be the bottom one. So yeah, in your day-to-day work, like don't pay attention to this really, because you really shouldn't, you won't be seeing this when you're creating a new initial DS2019.
Yeah, Simone didn't see this earlier, and I haven't either, but it's just we've got our discombobulation.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
on the third set of select records, because we had another blank row in there. So it will, local, mailing, and foreign is what it's trying to put in there. But we've got to tell it which one to take because of that. So now we've got our first screen here, new exchange visitor. We've got no more pop-ups. So we didn't have a mailing address or a local address, so neither of those got filled in. If we're going to need to fill them in, we'll have to do it here. So next step is what?
Next.
Okay, we're going to hit next. And we're going to say continue. We got the visitor eligible. Oh, wait, I've got another, hold on. I've got another pop-up. So it wanted me to tell it.
I don't even know why it's asking you for US local, but
It's doing the mailing. It's doing this whole thing again because it's got blank rows. So I'm going to do it again.
It's going to try to do that every window.
Yeah, it's going to try to do that every window. Okay, so let's go back here. We're going to say continue. And now we are on a screen site of activity, and
if you click on the link add site of activity, it'll take you into that screen, and then you can do the populate fields button again.
Okay, and Margaret, did you catch that? We clicked the add site of activity. We had to click the button down there. So it wasn't,
Nice.
the only way to get here to populate that is by clicking the link, the hyperlink, add site of activity. So now we're going to populate that. We're going to say add site of activity. So this, again, this is the stepping through of how we do this with the information's all in Synapsis that we want in here, and we're populating the fields from Synapsis into RTI, which is different than the batch. And you have to decide where is it advantageous.
Sounds like it would be faster than that.
That's what our point is. Yeah. With this particular event, we all have figured this out that we would want to batch. Yeah. So now we're going to go, unless you need it right now, today. So now we're going to go next.
Yep.
And we're going to add our dependent. So we're going to click the hyperlink for add dependent. And we're going to hit populate fields. And RTI form populating, it's asking me, so just so you see the pop-up window we're getting when we try to add dependents. So Margaret, if you've got more than one dependent record, it's going to ask, what do you want? So now here it becomes clear that we've got a blank row and we've got Renate Mueller. And obviously we know which one of those two we want. But we would have hopefully cleaned that up and not had that. So now we're going to add the dependent. We did the populate fields, add dependent. And now we're going to say next, because that was our only dependent. And now we're going to populate fields again to get the financial information in. So it automatically filled those in from Synapsis. Now I can't even see my button. Submit DS2019.
Yep.
And now we're going to print our final.
Yep.
And I've got, let me scroll across here because I've got a pop-up that's coming up.
Yeah, for some reason it will often ask you to manually connect the CVIS number to the right record. I don't know why that is because it's right there in front of you, but that's what you have to do.
So Hans Mueller, yeah, is going to be the one. And then Renate, the blank row dependent is still showing up there. So obviously you don't want to have all these blank rows out here. 6-2 is going to be Renate.
Mm-hmm.
If we were batching, this step would also not happen, right?
No, I think what I've noticed, it works fine for the primary. It may sometimes not pull in for the dependent, but I'm not sure. I've seen some sort of buggy behavior with that dependent number. It would be on an alert and it'll say, hey, this dependent is missing, information, and it's usually the CVIS number. So I'm thinking that may be happening in the batch process, or they may have fixed it. I haven't seen it in a while, but
So
yeah, I mean it.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a new meeting. We also started at whatever it was, 10:30. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, we're gonna close out here, but I want to make sure you saw it. Populated the CVIS number down here to show you the synapsis record's got the CVIS ID now. So Amy, I'm sorry, we're going to, unless you had a final thought, I've run.
No, you got through the basic process, and I think that you can see how easy it is. You have a sense of how to do the batch process in general terms. So just gives you a little bit to think about, and we can certainly have our next call. If we need to have a follow-up sort of conversation comparison, we could do that just to cement it in everyone's minds as you're making your decision.
Great. Okay. So thank you so much for bearing with me mainly today and for getting us through.
Don't worry, it happens.
Yeah, and have a great day.
Thank you.
You too, guys. Hang in there. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Went into the
Yes.
documents.
Yep. So I did a print final DS 2019, but it had sample on it, and so.
Well, it has sample because we're in the test database. All of them do, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can't create.
No,
a document.
I did one the other day that didn't say sample on it.
Are you sure?
I thought so. I thought I did one.
I think in the test database they do that on purpose so that you can't.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what Chris's
Try it again,
point.
Debbie, and then when you're back.
I will. But so Chris's point is now we should have a document. If we go under document management, we should have a CVIS document, and then I'll also show you those CVIS transactions. So we've got a document here.
What?
Just hold on. CVIS RTI. And let's make sure we got our J1 and our J2 in here. So we got our J1 and our J2. So those show up under the documents, and then we're going to see all of those RTI events under CVIS transactions, all of the things that we did directly in
Okay,
CVIS
and so if
RTI.
I refresh profile status with the CVIS ID display, it should display up there, right? The
I'm sorry.
profile status
Yes.
refresh button, if I do this, then I have the CVIS.
Yes.
Okay.
Yay!
And that's why I was talking about the
I wanna
refresh.
see that.
I want to see that
I wanna
CVIS
see
ID.
that CVIS ID there.
What I noticed is that there is no such thing as pending
Yeah.
in Synapsis. It's initial, but it's kind of confusing because we don't use it like that.
But there is one actually that says pending in the beginning. I noticed that when Angela entered the info, and I don't remember in what field exactly. There was one that actually said pending, but I don't know if they don't mean CVIS pending. I think it's
Well, and I'm still learning that, and that's going to be that's one of the really hard paradigm, the transformations here is because the status, for example, this initial scholar right here, Synapsis controls this initial. You can't, you know how in FSA we manually choose? Based on what we've got in here, it will decide. Like that, you can't, if you change it manually, but the logic doesn't match it, it will fix it for you and make it what it is supposed to be. So in other words, let me see if I can go. I know Margaret's got to go right now, but we'll talk some more about this.
We'll have to
But keep.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk a little bit about the value versus the problems with having Daniel and Angela in these meetings, because I'm getting a sense that as you're poking your way through this, they're getting more confused than they're getting helped.
So, well,
And it might make more sense for them to start joining in when we actually really know what we're doing, because for
And
them,
I said that, I think
this
if you recall, I said that a long time ago, that we may want a certain higher level team of people, but what Angela, one thing is we don't want them to be totally disconnected. So the first part that you missed, Margaret, when Angela was here, if she would be, she's learning a little bit along the way, but we should have maybe cut her out early.
because I think
earlier.
for Daniel and Angela, I think part of their nervousness is also they haven't really had that hands-on experience on their own time, and I think that's part of it. With Angela, it helped today to go actually in there and enter some information, and she could relate, I'm sure, better to what was said because of that than before.
So what we'll do is tomorrow we have our scholar team meeting.
And
So I'll just ask them for feedback on that, on what part of this process is helpful for them and what part of it isn't working, and let them say, because it's,
Okay, and then, but Margaret, then too, as the leader of the whole gang, what I think is happening is on the student side, we've got some intake advisors and other people delving into the system and getting their hands on it. And what we're saying is the only opportunity, Angela, because she hasn't taken time outside of these meetings, this morning, us sitting down here with her for an hour doing what we did, otherwise she has no concept what's going on, and it's going to be ugly in November. So I think we need them. I think we need them less, not as long as we had Angela here today, but we need her here, I guess is what I want to say. Giving them the option to just postpone it and not be getting in on their own, and because they're not getting in on their own. You can see it from the test records, who's spending the time getting in. And that's what we're needing right now, is we're needing to have the conversations, get in and practice on your own, come back here.
Well, we may have to schedule weekly time then, like just an assigned
Yes.
hour every week.
I think we should talk about this on
tomorrow.